new Rajya Sabha Chairman, Vice President Dhankhar, today made a mention of the Supreme Court's decision to reject an act of Parliament back in 2015 on the appointment of judges. This is the second time that the Vice President has mentioned this issue in what appears to be an increasing confrontation between the government on one hand and the Supreme Court on the other on the appointment of judges. Let's first listen in to what the new Rajya Sabha Chairperson said.
The Parliament, in a much-needed historic step, passed the 99th Constitutional Amendment Bill, paving way for the National Judicial Commission. There was unprecedented support. The Lok Sabha unanimously voted in its favor, with there being no abstention. This historic parliamentary mandate was undone by the Supreme Court by a majority of 4:1, finding the same as not being in consonance with the judicially evolved doctrine of basic structure of the Constitution. Honorable members, there is no parallel to such development in democratic history, where a duly legitimized constitutional prescription has been judicially undone. A glaring instance of severe compromise of parliamentary sovereignty and disregard of the mandate of the people, of which this House and the Lok Sabha are custodians.
Well, my colleague Arvind now joining us for more on that. Arvind, there's a pattern here. The Vice President saying this twice now about the appointment of judges. We've already heard the Law Minister make comments that has irked the Supreme Court. Tell us more.
Yeah, Nidhi, during the Rajya Sabha session today, the Vice President and also the Rajya Sabha Chairman, Dhankhar, he made this remark wherein he said this. The NDTV was brought in through the 99th Constitutional Amendment over appointment of judges, but that was struck down by the Supreme Court through a 4:1 majority by the Constitution Bench, because it altered the basic structure of Constitution, because no act can be brought in by the Parliament that alters the basic structure of Constitution. Because of this particular doctrine, the Supreme Court went ahead and quashed this or said this particular NJAC is unconstitutional. Then they quashed this entire act or the law. So that's where the government has been saying. In fact, the Law Minister has been saying that whenever the judges want to appoint someone for any of the higher judiciary, high courts or the Supreme Court, the government cannot be a new spectator, because government is also part of the process, and the judges or the judiciary cannot expect the government to just clear the names whichever are being referred or recommended by the Supreme Court Collegium. But this is the second time the Vice President is making such remarks, wherein he is saying that a very important legislature that was passed by the Parliament through 99th Constitutional Amendment was struck down by the Supreme Court, and he is underlining the very important point here. He is saying that in the parliamentary democracy, it's the Parliament that should be supreme. He is saying that if a law that has been enacted by the Parliament, that should be given importance. But whereas the Supreme Court is saying that because that altered the basic structure of the Constitution, and that's why the Supreme Court found it to be unconstitutional, and that was questioned. Now,
right.
What is to be seen is that whether the government will again come up with a similar kind of a legislature in order to ensure that they fix this entire collegium system, is something that we have to wait and watch for.
Right. So is there going to be a bigger confrontation? Is Parliament going to attempt to actually change that collegium system? That's what the speculation is. Let's see what happens. Thanks very much for that, Arvind.